Yeah, I don't know, do you want?
Because I have a presentation, I'll say.
Okay.
Okay.
You can use the clicker.
I can use this clicker.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is working? Yeah. Hi, everybody. Hi, panelists. We've only talked by email, so it's great to see you guys. We're going to talk, my name is Shuli Gilutz, and I'm a UX researcher in the kids and technology industry. I've been doing it for more than 15 years, working both in academia and with industry, consulting companies on how to design age-appropriate digital experiences for kids, bringing kind of theory and kids' research methods into the designs. We have an awesome panel today to talk about technology beyond just being a consumer, how kids can be creators as well. And you'll hear about very cool products and ideas. I think that's the great thing going on here, because we see how products change so fast, but ideas is what sparks the innovation. So I will just introduce the topic, and then we'll have everybody explain about what they're talking about. So just to get you thinking about what it means to be a tinkerer, what it means to think about being a creator rather than a consumer. So the typical image we think about when we think about tinkering and creating may be something like this, which is Lego. I know there are folks here from Lego. I think it's one of the reasons, kind of a classic. We all played with it when we were kids. We love that our kids are still playing with it. And kids are building stuff. They're tinkering. They're manipulating. They can follow instructions. They can be creative. They can do whatever they want. And it's wonderful, and it's empowering. And Lego has been adding various ways to add technology and digital experiences. This is a picture of Lego Mindstorms, I think. So you have all kinds of sensors and incorporated within the Lego kit, and motors, and you can actually program it and create little robots or all kinds of other activities. So it's a great tinkering experience. Kids are creating. But I wanted to challenge you a bit more and talk about more ways we could look about tinkering. So I guess folks know about this, the folks here I'm sure. This is the Nintendo Labo that just came out. I mean, you could actually buy it for the past 2 weeks ago, I think. It's a wonderful extension for the very successful gaming console Nintendo Switch, which in itself affords many experiences for kids, like kids can play together and physical play and take it with you and so forth. But here, they really added a kit. And I actually got it, and it was so heavy, and I was wondering, why is this thing so heavy? And I open it up, it just has cardboard in it. And you're like, just layers of cardboard. I thought, okay, that's interesting. But you actually buy cardboard, and you can create all these additions. They're using this Switch as the screen, as a computer inside, and kids can build all kinds of new creations with their Switch, and there's content to go with it. So it's a wonderful example of kids creating within that kind of digital environment. Another example, I want to give some examples that are purely digital, so we don't have the Lego-y, cardboardy part to it, because I think being a creator is not just something physical, right? You can be a creator in a digital world. So we've got Tokaboka Tailor over there, where you can create your own designs for your clothes. You can take snapshots of things around the home and put them in and create new, you can be a fashion designer. We have Toontastic, where kids learn how to create cartoons. They can add music, they create different scenes, they bring in their own drawings, and it's all in one little app. So totally creation experience. And of course, Minecraft. I don't have to explain a Minecraft to this audience, but obviously a huge creative platform. I want to argue that these also are part of our panel today, even though we don't see any screen, motor, sensor, or anything like that here. I guess you know what that is, right? The green thing? Slime, yeah. Slime is big for kids these days, globally. And this was big a few years ago, which is Rainbow Loom. Yeah, so kids, you could see in all schools, kids were sitting, creating these bracelets from rubber bands. boys too. And why they belong here is because one of the ways kids build and create and do these things is with YouTube. So YouTubers or just kids themselves create clips and put them online for other kids to watch how to make an even cooler slime or even better pattern for your rainbow loom and so forth. So YouTube acts as like a support system for creativity, even if you wouldn't think of it something like that, even if we said it was like TV. And again, YouTube, we have all our DIY YouTubers that kids log in and find, and they can create anything they want. So it's a huge platform for being a creator rather than a consumer, even though it's a screen. So I'm done. I just wanted to think about those faces, because I think that's what we're really all aiming for. That moment of joy, that moment of exciting, that moment of intrinsic motivation when you want to learn more, create more, and be more creative. And we'll hear about some great examples from our panelists. So,
hi guys, it's a pleasure to be here. So my name is Hugo and I'm the CEO of Magikbee. So at Magikbee, what we are doing and the challenge is to connect physical and digital experiences. So we challenge kids to build with very high-tech toys, so like wooden blocks, and make it connect to a digital device. So we know that kids love when they are connecting to digital content, and so we are kind of doing our magic and connecting these two different worlds into a very engaging kids experience. So as Dylan said in the beginning, many of the startups or the companies that are created in this space are from people that are not related to kids' needs. And in my particular experience, I quit my corporate job because I'm a parent of two young daughters, and I started to see that there were some challenges that needed to be solved and some opportunities also that needed to be addressed. And I started the challenge to find solutions for my own kids. And actually, these solutions, I saw that there was a big market and that could transform their needs into a company and to fulfill the needs of other kids and other parents. And so that's how it started. And it's quite challenging to develop for kids because they are a very particular audience, and once if you are just a developer that has no connection to kids, it's very often probable that you are going to make a lot of mistakes because you don't really know what kids like, and it's really challenging to do something that they can love and use every day. So that experience as a father really helps to develop our products and really help us to make them better for kids.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Jonny Austin, and I'm the CTO at the Magikbee Educational Foundation. We're continuing the work of a project that the BBC and 31 other partners did starting in 2015. As part of that project, we built and designed the BBC Microbit, which is this. If I shake it, it does stuff. If I drop it, it should show an umbrella because it knows it's in free fall. So it's a small physical computing device that helps kids get creative with code. And one of the key things that was done as part of that BBC partnership was a real focus on the needs of children and teachers in the classroom. So it was looking at both the classroom environment, not just the device, but all the things around it, and how you could broaden engagement with computing by helping kids break out into the physical world. So there was this observation that in order to teach the new computing curriculum that was coming in the UK to appeal to anything other than just a certain subset of the audience that already was going to get computers, it was necessary to do something different. And motivating all of that learning by helping kids solve a problem they care about or express themselves or do something that matters to them was a really important way of engaging them. And one of the only good ways to do that at young age groups was to help them interact with the physical world. So Microbit is about bridging the digital and the physical world and making learning coding being about doing something you care about, and the coding is a side effect.
Hello, everyone. I'm Agnes Agullo, representing Papier Machine that just launched this year on Kickstarter on January. So Papier Machine is this. It's a kind of a book but sometimes there are stories with no words, but only paper, colors, shapes, and circuits. It's actually containing 6 electronic paper toys that children and adults, because we are not focusing on children, although the topic is on children. Those six toys will have to be built by yourselves, and we'll tell you the stories of the hidden mysteries in your cell phones and devices you have around you. So we launched that product in January, but it's been a project of 3 years research. It was a student research at the beginning, and along the way we met people, we suggested it to the public, we were exhibited because it was an artistic project at some point, and the public convinced us that there was a need to try to reveal the strange phenomenon surrounding us, and that we could do it with no screens, but in alternative ways and fun ways.
I have a mic. I know. I was like, so my name's Taylor. I work with Kano Computing, and I'm the education community manager. So I come from a very education teacher background. I taught in the United States. But Kano Computing is the computer that anyone can make and anyone can build. It's the idea about demystifying technology, and it uses physical computing, storytelling, and simple step-by-step instructions to be really an easy entry point for anyone to kind of get into the DIY makerspace community. The idea started when Alex Klein, our founder, he was a journalist before, and he had gone to a talk about the Raspberry Pi, was really inspired by this device, and his cousin, who was 6 at the time, was like, computers are cool and all, but I want a computer that is as easy and as fun as Legos. And was like, wow, that's a really great idea. We should make that. And that's really was the start from kind of making something that anyone really can get into. You can either have the step-by-step instructions or you can have the books. So we get cool little books that have really simple step-by-steps that explain the hardware portion of the kits. And then you kind of build it yourself. So you can either go organically into playground mode, kind of explore coding yourself with either block-based, text-based code, or you can go with very step-by-step instructions that are in very kid-friendly language to be able to understand these different type of computer science concepts in text-based and block-based code. Yeah.
Okay, great. So we have blocks, paper, physical computing, and an actual do-it-yourself computer, all talking about how kids can be creators with digital kind of looming in the background or not the background, depending on the product. So a question for you guys. What were some challenges you had encountered during your design and development process, and how did you solve them, and how did they impact the final product? By the way, I really appreciated that our previous speaker showed some of her successes, but also some of the things that didn't work, because I think that's how we as a community can really learn how to improve and make this better. So, in that spirit, anybody?
Okay. We wanted to make something really, really cheap because we wanted it to be accessible to the widest audience possible, and we knew that the project wanted to continue beyond the UK after the UK rollout. So we wanted something that didn't have a case, because that was going to be more cost. We didn't want to hide the electronics away from the kids as well. That was the other reason we didn't want a case. So trying to take a raw PCB and make that safe and accessible for kids was a real challenge. And it was a real challenge for a couple of reasons. Firstly, safety. And secondly, almost everyone in the world that makes PCBs expects them to go in a box and for no one to see them. So we had kind of had this mismatch of expectations between the product we thought we were making and the product all of our supply chain thought we were making. And so the way we solved that was by a lot of talking, going out to see people, and just a large number of iterations. But I think the other thing that was really important about the microbit was that people in the microbit, in the kind of project, especially a shout out to Tech Will Save Us. I don't know if anyone from Tech Will Save Us is here, but they were part of the original project, and they just absolutely insisted, if it's going to go out to kids, it needs to look right, it needs to be right, it needs to not be in a case. And I think making it safe as well, there was a lot of work on how to do something that was child safe, and extra expense incurred because of that.
Well, when we first started, we had in mind that we tried to define what was play for us. So we separated the play experience in 3 moments that we always had in mind. So the first one was we wanted to seduce and to intrigue someone that would see this book. So it had to be beautiful, it had to be intriguing, not too many information, but the least you can have. So you can be you just want to know more. So this was tested a lot, only for 3 words, actually. But the second moment was the play experience. When people actually play, we wanted people to have fun using papier machine. So we needed to have fun first. That was the first objective. That's how papier machine came out. We just broke all our iPhones and everything. Well, they weren't functional anymore, but we dug into it, and we just discovered a world of materials, shapes, and colors. So we wanted to interpret what we had seen in those devices, and we wanted to have fun doing it. So the beginning was that, but then we wanted people to have fun discovering the same stories we had discovered. So that was kind of tricky, because what we had seen was simple as in appearance, but it could have been complex as well to explain it. So we needed to simplify complexity. I don't know if I'm making myself clear, but we wanted everything to be smoothened and people to be able to build something really easily, a product that could be accessible while fun at the same time. So make it last was a big challenge. And last moment would have been that we wanted people to want more when they were done playing papier machine, the 6 toys, when they had the stories we wanted to tell them, but we wanted them to build their own stories and to be seduced by the idea of paper and circuits. So we imagined a whole collection of papier machine, and we are trying to tease about it. So some of the parts included in the books are linking to what will come next, and we hope that will do the job.
She has the mic.
Yeah, for Kano, I know when we were originally designing the product, we really wanted to make sure the build experience is this really great experience for kids when they open the box. It's very much, you get everything in the box and you can start building yourself and you have the computer. But creating that experience, you have to make sure that, one, you're able to maybe not look at the book because like a kid's really excited, they don't want to look at the book. So it has to be a product that can be built without any instructions, but then also the instructions need to be there if you need it. So I know a lot of like from our creative team, from our designer team, you know, we have experience of like what we think kids need to know and what they want to know, and they don't care at all. So they'll go through instructions, be like, nope, I'm not going to go to page 13. I'm not going to do this. Oh, why doesn't it work? So we did a lot of testing to kind of see like what are the steps that kids are going through? Like, how are they actually picking up these pieces? Like, where are they picking up these pieces first? What appeals to them? You know, is it like a black keyboard, or like we moved to like this nice bright orange one for all of our packaging? So what is the thing that's going to really appeal to a child when they're first going through? And what instructions and sort of scaffolding, like actual pieces, do they need to be able to go on and feel successful to move on to the next experience? So really kind of pushing that frustration level sometimes, like, yeah, you're going to build this, and I'm an adult, and I'm not going to help you, so you have to be independent for it, but making sure it's not going to frustrate them so much that they're going to say, nope, I don't ever want to pick up this thing again, and get really angry. So it's a fine line to work with sometimes, and we did a lot of testing with kids in schools around London and in the UK to kind of see, like, well, what do you pick up really easily? What do you actually need more support? And how can we make sure that the wording in our instructions in our storybook really appeals to you and demystifies this technology for you so that you understand the concept. So afterwards you can feel confident and say, like, yes, I did build a computer, and this is what the components of the computer are effectively. Okay.
So the challenge here is to and the challenge for us was to design something that's so we are targeting our products for kids starting at 2-3 years old. So it's quite challenging. So we have the instructions for the parents to install the apps, but after that any kid can start using the app and connecting the blocks. I'm going to show you because I think it's always better to see how it works. So it's really quite a simple process. Let me just put an app. And despite being, let me just go to the first level. Sorry. So we are kind of creating an augmented reality experience, but instead of just having a 3-year-old kid just pointing a smartphone into something physical, we are making them to use their own blocks to make the interaction. So they just have to put the block in the right spot, and they can see magic happen. So we are kind of creating a cool augmented experience, and it's quite different from others. And that was our beginning, why I started the project, because we wanted to really have something that was quite easy for kids to use. And as you see here, let me go to just another one. They can even combine different blocks and make constructions. And if they are tired of the app, they just can turn off the iPad and just start building with the blocks. So for instance, here I have to help the character go to the other side, and I just have to build a bridge so we can go to the other side. So this process, when we are designing the product like this, we see that sometimes we are thinking of a way that kids used to play, but when we show, and I particularly have 2 young kids at home, so I showed our designs, our mock-ups, and sometimes we get a little bit frustrated because the things that we designed don't work with kids. Yeah. So it's part of the process trying to design this in connection with the kids so that they can try out the games, they can explore, and then we are going to fine-tune the process to make that very easy and simple for kids to use.
Okay, thanks. This is beautiful. Okay, so that last comment about working with kids is my next question, and I have to say that's my kind of thing. I really believe about incorporating children throughout the design, developing process, the content, the concept creation, and of course later on with user testing and so forth. So how were children involved throughout your design and development process? What were some things that surprised you during playtesting? It could be both positive or negative. And how did those impact the final product?
I can start because I have the mic. So, in our case, for instance, we have some challenges that require them to use multiple blocks, and we designed the experience to assemble block by block. And sometimes kids were building with the blocks in front of the iPad and just picked all the blocks and put it in front of the screen. So that was a challenge for the technology, and we had to adapt something into the code to make that also possible to work out. So by seeing this and seeing that was a problem that happened because we were connecting with kids, and all the design process was together with kids.
Do you do it regularly? Do you have kids as a regular part of the development process?
Yeah, yeah.
Did you partner with schools, or is it just neighborhood kids, friends, or how do you do this?
Yeah, so I have, luckily I have two kids and all their friends, so I also invite the friends to come over and
I'm sure
experience.
They're excited about it too.
Yeah, exactly. And I use also my school, the school that my kids attend, and I go there and I test them into more educational environments and let them play and see what are the challenges that they have using the technology. and it's a really big and important part of the design of the application. So I think it's always important, and from all the sessions that we made before, surprising kids is always the best way to get their attention. So if it's something that is quite expectable, they don't feel that is something that they like. So something unexpected is something that they really connect. And that's why for the ones that have small kids, and a couple of years or 1 year or two ago, some kids were looking at videos with surprise eggs and were just, whoa, just stop there and see what was the surprise. So I think that element, that was not a very good type of video, but that's the insight that's probably in development phase we have to take care, because it's a very important reward system and not something quite fancy, but really works with kids.
Well, we didn't ask ourselves at the beginning, I have to admit, what would kids think about Papier Machine, since it was a research project and then an artistic project, but it was presented to the public several times, exhibited at the Musée des Arts Décoratifs in Paris last year, in Marseille, in France as well. We were at the Maker Faire in San Francisco. I don't know if you guys know it, but it's just been amazing. We've met families, and they've been playing with Papier Machine for the first time on the other side of the ocean. So that it was really, really a really good experience to learn from. So from those, it kind of came naturally that we had to change Papier Machine, that we had to adjust things when we saw people playing, especially kids. But it's true that the thing is that we want children and adults to play together. We want them to play together, so we had to find a way to talk to children as well. So first thing was to, as you said, test it with our personal circles, our daughters, nieces, nephews, and everybody we could reach out. So from that we learned so much, and what surprised us from all those public presentations was the natural intergenerational interaction. I'm sorry, it's so hard to say it. Intergenerational interaction. People were just helping each other. Children and adults were sharing the play. So it was actually nice, and we asked ourselves whether we had to smoothen everything for children or not, although we had in mind that we wanted also the children to play alone. Individual and shared experience was really thought. And yeah, the intergenerational interaction was good, and then we also liked the fact that children that were coming to Papier Machine to play, especially at Maker Fairs, they were coming from different interests. Some were just coming because it was beautiful. Some others were coming because it was intriguing. Some others were tech addicts, and other book addicts. So we had diversity even in the public we managed to reach out to, and that's how we tried to push multidisciplinarity to the maximum we could. Yeah, this one actually. Well, I think I have I have it. This was the artistic project of this. And while testing it with children, well, if I have to explain it, I think before saying it to you, because. Oh yeah, please, I'm sorry. So I don't know if I said it before, because I was really embarrassed at the beginning, so I didn't explain all the details about Papier Machine, but this is actually a book printed with conductive ink. So you bring it to life with several components, a button cell that we have inside, a metallic ball, and a buzzer that will make sounds. So you will play music actually with this first volume of the whole collection of Papier Machine. So with this one, the aim of the game, this is one of the 6 games you have inside. This was the previous version. We tested it, and then it became this because you have to make the ball follow the track until the end. And the longer you stay, the louder the sound will be. But when you see this, and you have to make the ball follow the track, it was not easy, especially because you have curves and you have everything, and you have. So it was hard, and people were just frustrated at the beginning. Yeah, so it was the opposite as what we wanted. So they were saying, "Well, I'm sorry, but I'm not playing with your game. It's just frustrating. I'm feeling silly." Okay, especially because this is should remind you of something. I don't know if in England you play the same game as we do, but when we were little, we had bubble tubes, and at the top of the bubbles, you had that kind of game. So this is actually what you were supposed to play and remind from your childhood. And people were just, well, I could do it when I was a child, but now I can't. This was the opposite of what we wanted to do, and we managed to get everything better and to build some walls into the game, and it worked better.
Yes. So as I said before, like we've done a lot of testing with the book in particular about providing instructions in the step-by-step. And we still really talk to kids a lot just to kind of get their input on a lot of things, and then also just to know how they interact with our application as well sometimes as like for following step-by-step instructions. So we might think that, okay, this explicitly says to do this, it's highlighted at this point, but then maybe they didn't read that and they're just like clicking through really quickly. So it's a lot of times we have to even go through just like how does a child interact with the keyboard? Because we work with sometimes like 5-year-olds, even 6-year-olds who might have only been using a tablet before and are just, this might be their first experience on a keyboard. And so how do their little hands like deal with keyboards and like using the trackpad and clicking? What type of double clicking are they used to? So it's like a lot of things with just body movements that, you know, kids are starting to grow into their bodies as well and like understanding like how to do these different movements. So because we are a physical device first that they build, we have to make sure that it's something that they can incorporate into like what their movements are and the things that they're learning at the same time. And then that's also like how kids are learning to read as well. That's something that has to come into play. It was like, well, how many consonants and like syllables that they can actually process at the same time, what words, what vocabulary are they picking up? If this is a 6-year-old child and I'm saying a word, they're like, I don't know what this word is, and then I don't understand and I'm disengaged. So a lot of it is sometimes actually like thinking about the psychology of how children are developing, like how they're developing themselves, and then incorporating that into also like thinking about how you should be designing the product for those children if you're targeting a specific age group. So we work with like a lot of different kids in different schools. We run after school clubs that we run directly to kind of get some user testing. Then we also like have some like one-off workshops, so you can kind of see a different experience of, this is a kid who's never seen Kano and they only have 1 hour with us. Then you have the kids who have been with us for 6 months. They don't need any instructions for this, but what are the things that they actually want to push on and learn even more? So kind of grabbing like a lot of different groups of kids at different points in time. So it's like, this is a one-off event. This is, you've been with us for like 3 years. You really get us and you want to know what these other advanced projects are and what's just really interested in you and what would you want us to design for you. Like, do you want to explode like a tower of TNT block like 1,000,000 times in Minecraft and try to crash it? Then like, hey, maybe we'll like try to design a challenge around that engages you and makes you interested.
Okay, so I'm going to give a couple of examples of things that I think were good from testing from children, and a couple of things that we totally missed until we had too many of them to fix it. I think the device, the microbit itself, is a product of testing a range of different ways of getting people to engage with coding and discovering that having something physical was important. So I already explained that to some extent. But one bit that was really neat was putting a battery on it so that the kids could unplug it from the computer and take it and hold it and show someone else and go, look at what I made. And, you know, with a 5x5 screen, if you don't know what they've made, you can't really tell. You know, you can't tell it's a dog until they've told you it's a dog, and then it's definitely and clearly a dog. But that thing of them being able to, you know, actually that thing of it being imagination, but the kid telling the story about it, what it was, and holding it up and showing someone else was absolutely crucial. So once that piece of insight had been gained, and this is really me telling the BBC story, I got involved in it later, but you know, that thing of being able to hold it up, show it to somebody else, and it being their creation was really important. You talked about the size of children's fingers, and that's absolutely key. So a lot of this, you know, devices that have come before, like the Microbit, the Arduino, is an amazing kind of tool. But if you try and get kids in a classroom to use the Arduino, they just can't plug the breadboard pins into the right slot on the breadboard, and in a lot of cases, they can't even see they've got it in the wrong place. So learning about the right scale of at which to build the device, and this big chunky edge connector has these, you know, a bunch of large pins, and then as a compromise to make sure we don't limit ourselves in terms of breakout, we've got some little ones next to it, and you can plug it into an adapter board to break it down to something much larger. So that balance between the large, but trying not to limit the kind of how far people can go with the device by making it too simple. So those were two that I think went really well. Turns out that when schools buy crocodile clips, which are the little, or alligator clips that connect onto these devices, they will always buy the cheapest ones. And if you're doing nice testing in a hardware lab, you don't have the cheapest crocodile clips. You've got nice crocodile clips. And the difference in how kids use the cheap ones versus the nice ones makes them almost useless for kids under 10. Right? Kids under 10 with cheap crocodile clips basically can't use them. And we had no idea until we put them out into schools. And that was a real eye-opener, because you kind of went, well, we tested this. Here, look, here's my crocodile clip. And they pick it up and go, oh, yeah, that is easy. So making sure that you test in a real environment actually was one of the things we picked up from that. And don't just test in your lab. And we tested with kids, but we took a whole kit to the kids rather than went to the schools and said, give us your crocodile clips. So that's one that I think was really interesting. And then the other one was the initial examples that we provided for Microbit were often, they talked far more about technology than they needed to. Getting people to engage really early on with just something cool. I think all of the three of you kind of know this through and through. I think it came as a bit of a lesson to us that getting people to engage with something first is best. We have a very popular example now, which is called the teleporting duck. And you have two microbits, you shake one microbit and it sends the duck magically over the radio to the other microbit. And that's all it does. And if you give it to an engineer, they'll be like, yeah, so? Yeah. Well, you know, like, it's a duck. It's not even a duck. It doesn't look like a duck. What are you talking about? But if you give it to kids, they absolutely love it. And so this kind of move of making sure that even the ways we tell people about what the microbit can do are much more focused on what's going to engage the kids is important.
Okay, so following some of the talks earlier today, we hear every few months about digital products for kids that have compromised their kids' well-being in some way or another. So how do you incorporate design ethics into your products? And what is your recommendation for others wanting to do the same?
So we believe that kid has to have time for everything. So we don't recommend kids to spend all day playing our games. So it's something that is not good for them. So they should have different experiences. And I see when I see competitors in this place, I don't see them as competitors, but I see them as different experiences that kids should have. So it's not just buying a Magic Play, they should buy a Magic Play, they should buy other toys, because they are going to provide them different experiences, and that's the thing that is beneficial for their development. So in terms of our concepts, as I said, they can use it together with an iPad and they get rewarded on the digital side, but if they want, they can shut down and just throw blocks to their sister or brother. So there are other things that they can do. So it's not just about our games. So it's just one small part or one small task or one small activity that they can do to improve certain abilities. Like for small kids, fine motor skills, it's a big deal. And when they are starting using digital only, there are some things that they don't develop as they should. So we are trying to have both, so they have to manipulate the physical objects and still get the chance to see all the benefits of the digital content. So it's like Lego, and my kids love Lego, and that's cool, and that's cool, and I think that this is a way to making them like to build things, making them like to do different things. So that's the beginning of our project, and I think that's kind of, I think it's really parts, and it's in the beginning of all that started.
Okay, so one of the things we've had to recognize is we are a very small team. The Microbit Foundation is 12 people, basically. And so the things that we can safely maintain and run, we have to make sure that if we put something up on the website, if we put up a service, that we can maintain it safely. And one of the things we've chosen to do, as one of, perhaps it's an ethical stand, it's possibly an engineering decision as well, is just not do stuff that we don't think we can do safely, securely, and completely. And the penalty to that has been remarkably small in a lot of cases. So we don't have any user accounts. We don't have any way to log in. We don't have any way to comment on things. We don't have any discussion. And actually, for kids, especially in classrooms and teachers already have all the facilities they need for this stuff. Schools already have it well set up. And so sometimes I think one of the best ways you can limit your risk, I think, and that sounds very boring and conservative, but I think it's really important when you're dealing with this audience to think about risk, is to do a lot less and do the bit that you do really carefully and really well.
Okay, so on our side, it's definitely something we are thinking about. What is the experience for the child and the parents when they go through it? And one of the things that we started doing is we want to, like when you're on the Kano Kids, it can be a very, like the kids are really engaged, but they're definitely zeroing on a screen the whole entire time. They're very actively playing Minecraft. And that is something that a lot of parents are sometimes concerned about. They're like, my kid is now staring at the screen for 3 to 4 hours, and they're just obsessively playing whatever game it is. And so part of what we've also done is ways to incorporate questions that the parents can ask to their not their students, well, their children, but to their learners or to their kids about, if we are doing an activity and it's like, well, how can you take care of the earth? And then maybe you're asking that question, you're starting that dialogue with your child, and then you're actually maybe incorporating or trying to like build something together in your game. So one of the things we've done is like a lot with email marketing is like, what is a weekend experience that you could do with a family member on the Kano Kids? That it's not an individual play, but it's rather like, let's ask this question that maybe is like an environmental question. Maybe it's like, hey, if it's International Space Day coming up, like what is a planet that you could build yourself? Like, why don't you actually build the terrain for your planet in Minecraft or actually design that planet and make art with code? So then it becomes more of a discussion piece so that you're having parents being able to talk about that time and create that social atmosphere rather than it's just being an individual one.
Quick. For us, to our opinion, we would say that good design would be a design that would be intriguing, that would be surprising, that would simplify, that would bring answer to questions, but that should, in the end, bring up more reflections and want more. So we are convinced that again, multidisciplinarity has a part to play. It brings openness. We try to create a product that would mix technologies, but paper, but also arts and play. We need to educate, in a way, children and adults to value what's going on around us and to be able to make from what's going on around us. So we are convinced that it can come from multidisciplinarity. If you're interested in technologies, but you're playing with something that is mixing other things, you will obviously have to open to something else. And second, which is really important for us, second thing would be the power of do-it-yourself. We are too often saying that we are living in a world of zapping. We are switching. Someone said it before. We're switching from an app to another. We're switching from a game to another. Children are doing the same. We have to find a way to make play last and to make children just want more about what they're doing at the moment, and to prevent them from thinking about what they will be doing next. We think that we need to give value to time, and I think do-it-yourself is a good way to bring it to children.
So thanks for those. I think those are very important. Following our talk earlier today, I believe also that trust will be a main concept that parents will be looking for when they decide which are the applications, experiences they want for their kids, not only applications, but toys as well. And make those transparent, bring those out, because those are the things that will differentiate you or you guys from your competitors. We don't have a lot of time left, so I'll ask a question, and only those who have relevant answers. Have you seen any international differences or international localization things that came up in terms of patterns of play, of comments from the kids or their parents that could inform and help other people when they're thinking about creating a global product? And I don't know if you do, because I don't know how that works. Yeah.
I've got a quick one that was really fun for us. In the UK, there's a very clear disparity in the number of boys and girls that take computing subjects at A level and at GCSE. And one of the things that we want to do is reverse that, and microbits being effective in doing so. And we sort of had a slide about these stats when we were talking to some people who want to run the program in Hong Kong, and they went, "You've got a problem with that? We haven't got a problem with that." And the same in India. So it's really interesting to see that the STEM boys problem that we have here doesn't exist elsewhere in the world. So in marketing messages, that's kind of great.
Hi there, my name's Mike from Advanced Learning Consortium. It's not necessarily a question, but it's just so pleasing to hear that it's just not software-based and it's very kinesthetic and hands-on. That physical computing, I think, is so important for children, and the wide variety that they can then have in front of them will really support not only their own motor skills, but obviously their tech and computing skills as well. So I just want to commend you all, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi. So one quick question on hardware costs and keeping it efficient. So obviously in startups, you need to iterate a lot. And I guess hardware is quite expensive unless you've got a good under-the-table deal in Shenzhen. So how do you keep your costs down while continuing to iterate at a rate which startups need to?
So it's quite hard. So in our case, we are talking about wood, and probably it's more simple to do electronic stuff and cheaper than a simple thing like this, wooden blocks. So it's quite challenging to find the right partners that can do this kind of thing here in Europe, and we are doing this in Portugal. So we are based from Portugal, and we have there a company that is helping us on this. But it's hard to find ways to scale this because the solution is, okay, go to China and do it there. But even there, there's a lot of companies doing electronic, but a simple thing like this, there are not that as many. So it's a challenge. And also it's a challenge. It's always a challenge when you have a physical product, and if you want to be in retail, there's a lot of problems. So we are making some efforts in the digital space because e-commerce, it's easier for us. So we see that in order to scale, retailers play an important role, but at the current time, we don't want to go there. So we believe that stay digital, it's important, but it's a big challenge. I don't know if...
So I think there are two things that we've done to tackle this. Firstly, prototype really thoughtfully. So a bunch of stuff, you don't actually need your finished device to test it. You can build something cheaper, you can use something that already exists, you can use paper. A lot of the techniques that we've developed in software to avoid doing big builds can work fine in hardware, actually, if you set up the right environment, right? Does this fit in children's hands? Yeah, actually, doesn't. So prototype thoughtfully, prototype locally, so you can be there to avoid, a lot of the cost in hardware prototypes actually, I think comes from mismatches in what oh, we got that wrong, right, we need to do another run, we need to do another tooling cost, that kind of stuff. So get things done locally. And then the other thing that Microbit's done is have a business model that allows you to not have a classic product style margin, which is much more difficult if you're not a not-for-profit. But if you're a for-profit, I don't have the answer. But for us as a not-for-profit, we take a royalty on the hardware rather than double the margin.
Thanks. Hi, my name is Millie, and we created a product called Spintails, which is combining augmented reality with textiles. And this is specifically for Hugo, because you have a physical product and a software. What was your business model? Because they only buy the blocks once, but you have to keep keeping them engaged with your app. You have to keep creating new digital content, which becomes quite expensive. So any thoughts on that? Yeah,
so at first our business model is to sell the kits, and it includes 4 apps included on the kits. They do different challenges, and they start with the challenges that are simple for 3 years old, and they go to 8 years old with more difficult challenges. And the business model is to develop new apps that can use this set of blocks, so we can have different stories and sell those apps, so upselling and creating a digital revenue on that. So that's the plan.
Thank you so much.